I can't tell you enough about how excited I was for this 2.5-hour flight from Phoenix to Seattle. This flight was aboard Delta's newest narrow-body aircraft, the Airbus A220-100, which is a plane that I've wanted to fly on for the longest time now. So on this video, I'll bring you on my journey of flying for the first time in 18 months and also let you in on my first ever experience shooting a video inside an aircraft lavatory. My flight to Seattle today had a flight time of 2 hours and 15 minutes. The 7 AM flight departed from Terminal 3 at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. This flight costed me just $11.20 as I redeemed 20,000 Delta SkyMiles points that I received as part of the sign-up bonus for my Delta SkyMiles Platinum card. I arrived at the airport around 5 AM, which was way earlier than what I usually prefer, which is around 45 minutes before my flight time. I arrived extra early for this flight because of two reasons. One, I just missed walking around the airport terminal, and two, I wanted to catch a glimpse of the gorgeous Phoenix sunrise hitting the terminal and also all the aircraft parked on the tarmac. Upon walking into the terminal, I was greeted with a multitude of signage regarding the federal mask mandate, and as part of the online check-in process, I needed to confirm that I was not exposed to COVID-19 and I will wear my mask throughout my journey to Seattle today. But anyways, the TSA security screening went pretty smoothly and I arrived at my boarding gate just 15 minutes after arriving at the airport. And there it was, the Airbus A220-100 aircraft that will be flying me to Seattle today was already sitting at the gate. The aircraft had a tail number of November 131 Delta Uniform and was delivered to Delta Airlines in June of 2020. I was in awe looking at the aircraft as it's not very often that I get to sit on a completely new aircraft type, which this plane is. I first learned about the Airbus A220 in 2017 when I was still called the Bombardier C Series, and I was fascinated by this aircraft ever since then. While waiting for my flight to board, I wandered around the terminal, checking out the huge variety of aircraft sitting at the gates. In the past year, Terminal 2 at Sky Harbor Airport was formally closed and airlines such as United and Alaska shifted their operations to the north concourse of Terminal 3. This made wandering through the terminals that much more exciting. And before I knew it, it was time to board the plane for Seattle. Boarding was fast and efficient. It took only about 20 minutes from the start of boarding to the aircraft pushing back from the gate. After all, this plane only has a seating capacity of 109 passengers, plus today's flight wasn't full at all. Upon walking into the aircraft, I was given a Purell hand sanitizing wipe that I used to sanitize my hands. My seat was 12 Alpha, which is the last row in the Delta Comfort Plus section of this aircraft. This seat provided me 4 inches of extra legroom and had access to 2 windows, which is amazing for an av geek like me. Coupled with the fact that the Airbus A220 has one of the biggest windows on a narrow-body aircraft that rivals the huge windows on the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, this meant that looking out the windows would be that much more immersive. I initially wanted to splurge on a first class seat but decided not to because I felt that the benefits were not worth nearly double the points that I had to spend. Fortunately, the seat next to me was empty on this flight, and since this aircraft has a 2-3 seating layout, that meant that I had the entire left row to myself. I felt that my seat on this flight was far better than the seats in the first class cabin, which was full. Shortly after pushing back from the gate, the plane took off to the skies within minutes as the pilot managed to nab the first spot in the takeoff queue. This Delta Comfort Plus seat is 18.6 inches wide and has a seat pitch of 34 inches. In front of me is a 10.1-inch touch-enabled in-flight entertainment screen that had everything from the snack menu to movies and to my favorite section, which is the map/flight information view. The interface was pretty smooth, and under that display, there is a USB port for charging and also a 3.5mm headphone jack for audio. Moving down, there was only the safety information card that was slotted in the seat back pocket. Missing is the airline magazine that I'm accustomed to browsing through. Delta Airlines was the first to remove magazines from the seat back pocket at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, and right between each seat is a universal power adapter. The snack service on this flight was okay, just the typical selection of snacks and drinks that you would expect on the domestic short-haul flight. As I mentioned at the start of the video, part of my excitement for this flight is my experience of shooting a video inside an aircraft lavatory. Usually I spend about 10 minutes at most inside the lavatory of an aircraft, but for this flight, I stayed in the lavatory for a good 15 minutes. I was sitting down in the lavatory and enjoying the views from the window that the rear left lavatory provided. This was my first time being in a lavatory that had a window. Wide-body aircraft like the Airbus A380 and Airbus A350 had windows in their lavatories, but this is something unheard of for a narrow-body aircraft. The lavatory itself was physically small and cramped, but the inclusion of the window made it feel that much more spacious. However, I have to say, in order to properly enjoy the window view, I had to squat down at a pretty low and awkward angle. Also, the sink was kind of small and I ended up splashing a lot of water to the floor when I was washing my hands. Nevertheless, this was a great experience for me so far, and shortly after getting back to my seat, one of the flight attendants came by me to give me some Delta swag as they noticed I was going around pointing my camera at things across the aircraft. This was a great gesture by them towards an AF geek like me. For the rest of the flight, I spent time looking out the window and just savoring the views from above the clouds that I have missed so much throughout the pandemic. Of course, throughout the flight, announcements were made to remind everyone that wearing masks over the nose and mouth were federally mandated, even while sleeping. And before I knew it, the pilot prepared to make the final descent into Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. The flight arrived 30 minutes ahead of schedule, and since I had some time to spare, I asked the pilot if I could take a quick tour of the flight deck. He agreed, and I spent about 10 minutes marveling at the variety of screens that were available on the Airbus A220's flight deck. As you can see, Bombardier designed this plane to use a side stick rather than a yoke to maneuver the aircraft. Flying for the first time since the pandemic has reminded me why I love being in an aircraft. Looking out the windows as the aircraft was ascending into the clouds brought a smile to my face. I'm grateful that I can fly above the skies once again, and I felt that the Seattle-based Delta Airlines crew did a great job in making my first flight since the pandemic a safe and enjoyable one. While I didn't necessarily feel that the cabin of the Airbus A220 was quieter as what a lot of the reviewers and also Airbus's press material state, maybe I've just not flown in an aircraft in a while now and my ears aren't used to hearing something so loud. But I did appreciate the A220's spacious cabin and the extra large windows, which were awesome for someone like me that enjoys views from up in the air. Overall, Delta's Airbus A220-100 aircraft was a joy to ride, and I'll definitely choose to fly on the Airbus A220 aircraft in the future if I have the option to do so. Currently, only Delta and JetBlue are operating the Airbus A220 family of aircraft in the US, and I'm looking forward to trying out JetBlue's Airbus A220 aircraft sometime in the future. Let me know down in the comment section below if you've flown on the Airbus A220 or are planning to fly one in the near future. I'll be interested in hearing about that. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you very soon in the next video.